Hey, what is up, guys? Sorry for the little bit of a delay. We had some technical issues, also known as goalie being goalie, and we're finally back, and we're here again with a familiar face of the show. It's, of course, MarkyB. So, of course, here we're part of the crime as well as MarkyB is. MarkyB's doing a little bit of a wave. It's Tommy. Both of you waving all around. So, yeah, sorry about the delay. We're just going to try and route straight into it because, well,
we're a little late.
So, Marky, you've been on the show multiple times before, so you know how it kind of starts. So, why don't you head to introduce yourself for all the people who might not know who you are? Just go,
Okay.
a bit of a brief introduction. Off you go.
I'm MarkyB. I currently play for no one. I am a free agent. And I'm from Scotland, and I'm raising my hands up because I'm celebrating, because I'm really happy. Woo!
You're happy that you're a free agent?
No, I'm just happy. I didn't say that,
really.
Oh,
okay.
So I was happy.
I was about to say that's a bit questionable. But, of course, Tommy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for those who haven't been on the show before and are just thinking, who's this person who looks like Scum?
So, I am apparently the ginger EU scum. Apparently, that's what I've been nicknamed. I didn't give it to myself. For anyone goes, oh my god, you're such a fat boy.
100% giving himself that nickname.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I do some stuff on YouTube, esports and stuff. You can find my content. It's somewhere on the interwebs and so on and so forth. And we're just here really to talk about Call of Duty esports specifically in the EU scene. So just before we get going, if anyone has any questions, obviously if you're watching this the YouTube video, we can't answer them. But if you're watching the live stream, do leave them down below, and I'll try and pick out the best ones for obviously to ask MarkyB.
Good stuff. Right. Okay. So without further ado, Marky, you already mentioned that you're now a free agent. Of course, you was released by Epsilon and replaced by Mike Cat, who obviously kind of had a short... Mike Cat, yeah. Mad Cat. It's been a long day, okay? It's been a long day. Obviously, he was replaced by Mad Cat, who obviously had a little bit of a short spell over at TCM for however long that lasted. So, yeah, let's kind of talk about a little bit of your stint with Epsilon, because it was kind of a productive one. I'm sure you would agree with that. It was quite rewarding. Obviously, I believe you went to Gfinity. Was it the Gfinity League? Was that your first event with them? Is that right?
Well, it wasn't. Well, if you count it as an event, it was our Gfinity League matches we had at the Gfinity Studios.
Obviously, that was Hyper Games and Vitality, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you started out.
Correct.
See,
One point for rage.
Done my research. As you see, Marky already leaving. So
sorry, I'm closing my window. Sorry.
He's like, okay,
we only booked him for a 2-minute interview, and he's off.
I'm gone.
No, but of course, obviously, you 6-0'd Hyper Games. What was, I'm sure, obviously, you couldn't have done any better than that. And then you fought against Vitality, your nemesis. And of course, you might take one round of them, but the final score was 5-1. So I'm sure you wasn't too happy about that. I'm sure you knew going into it and going into the league that Vitality was kind of your biggest opponent. So what was your thoughts, obviously, of that game and the fact that you lost when you probably know that it's going to come down like it has done to the final week between you and Vitality?
It was obviously very disappointing for us. We went into the game giving it 100%. We lost a couple of narrow matches that could have went either way, and it was. Then there was a couple of matches they just blew us out. A lot of it came down to momentum and stuff, and just people, in particular PT and Watson were going off for them, and yeah, just it was obviously very disappointing to lose that match. Like you said, knowing that you only play each team once in this league, which is a bit different to the MLG league. Obviously, we only play each team once, so that one game against Vitality is such a massive game. If we win that game, we've won the league already at this point. So it's obviously it's massive.
Obviously, talking about more about the Gfinity EU matches at the Gfinity Arena, you started off with a 6-0 against Hyper Games. So going into that Vitality match, realistically, what were you expecting the outcome to be? Were you really confident after that 6-0? Because, I mean, looking at it, Hyper Games are top 4 in the league, so they're not exactly the worst team in the league. So you must have gained quite a bit of confidence going into that matchup.
Yeah, we were really confident going into it. After beating Hyper Games, like you said, was that was our first test as a team, sort of. So at that point in time, we were like, we're pretty good. We've won every single map. We clutched up when we needed to, and I still felt good going into every single map in the second series. Still felt we were playing as good as we could have, but we just came up a bit short. But yeah, like it gave us loads of confidence going into the Vitality series for sure.
Right, okay, and then of course, after the league, you kind of went into EGO, I believe. I might have got this wrong. Tommy's done his research, so
pretty sure
Tommy's that's correct, 100% correct.
Well done, Tommy, you've got your research spot on.
I do my research properly.
It makes a change, because usually it's quite bad, just saying. And of course, you finished first at EGO, So again, kind of, did you feel as if that loss to Vitality? I'm sure you scrimmed online and so on and so forth between the time of Vitality and EGO, and obviously you got the Gfinity Cups and so on. But what was kind of your thinking going into EGO, knowing the fact that you lost to Vitality once? Did you kind of expect to perform well and finish first, or was it just kind of you was expecting, a top 3 or a top 2 performance?
We expected at least a top 2. We obviously thought that the Vitality game would be a very tough game. We also knew that Watson just came back from holiday and stuff, and that actually originally knocked him into the losers bracket pretty much because he was knackered. But back on the Sunday, Watson was probably their best player at points, and we knew that going into it that if we just stopped Watson and Petey from going off, we thought that was the real difference maker, because from the actual original league match, then we could win the series, because just the way our team played, it was very aggressive and very sort of
was that kind
work orientated. So we knew that just sort of stop them from making these individual.
Yep.
Was that like the difference? Obviously, like targeting individual players. Like obviously, you talk about how at EGO you did that, but was that the difference compared to at Gfinity where you maybe didn't do that?
Well, I mean, we didn't really we weren't exactly in the game let's go for Watson now. But it was like if we knew it was last guy alive was what we were just sort of making sure we were always on the ball and not giving really anyone the opportunity to make any of these stupid 3 pieces or 2 pieces that may have happened before. Just being more on the ball, try to play better as a team, really. So that was our main objective going into it.
And of course it worked out for you, because I believe you went undefeated throughout all of EGO, of course, going all the way through the bracket, undefeated, not dropping around, and even 3-0 Vitality in the final. So obviously I'm sure it worked out well. I believe the prize pool for that was €1,100, so I'm sure that was
first place.
So I'm sure that was quite a healthy split for your behalf. And then obviously going into Am2 Pro, everyone's favourite event, the Norbrecht Castle. First of all, what was kind of your thoughts going into the Norbrecht Castle, knowing that it's got some history? I believe EGL 13 was the last event it hosted. You was there with TCM. I believe you finished 4th or 5th from what I can remember. Came third. Better than expected. I apologise, but of course I think
third was actually a very bad result.
From what I can remember, didn't Madcat get a 1v4 or something? Or was it you?
No, I got a 1v4.
Yeah, you got Madcat on 1v4 because that was against Infused, right? I can remember that was
against Tech, mate. Come on, get your information.
Sorry, it was a year ago.
I got a 1v4 against Tech, and we had Madcat picking up. All right.
It was a year ago. Okay, it was a long time. But of course that happened. I can remember that 1v4 kind of being a talking point. You finished third. What was it like kind of coming back to the Norbrecht, knowing that it's got so much history, and you've obviously performed well individually there in the past? Did you kind of know in the back of your head that this is your turf sort of thing?
To be honest, it's actually been one of the places I've had least success, if anything.
Right, okay.
I've
read your
been very
article
unlucky there in the
about
past. I do love the Norbrecht. Don't get me wrong, I actually love the place. I love how everyone's together and stuff like that, but I've been very unsuccessful there in the past, and that was in the back of my head. But yeah, I was still confident regardless.
Right, so yeah.
So I'm pretty confident winning the event.
So obviously you kind of always knew in the back of your head that this is kind of a bad place for you to be, as I've lost your webcam, it's back up again. It's just kind of a place to be, is in the sense of you haven't performed there well. Was that kind of always in the back of your head from day one, knowing you need to kind of outperform yourself, you need to kind of prove to yourself that you're good and you're good at this event? It's not just a weird superstition or whatever.
I guess so. Not really. It was just, to be honest, just focus on winning the event. There was not really any other things in the back of my mind. I did at one point make a joke about doing pretty bad at the Norbrecht Castle every time I was there, but I was never thinking I need to prove everyone wrong because Marky's got a Norbrecht Castle curse or whatever. I was never thinking that. I was always just focusing on the task at hand.
Right, and then of course you've broken the said curse because you won that with the team as well, and quite convincingly. Did you feel as if you kind of got it a little bit easy, knowing that Vitality, Millennium, Infused all kind of got knocked out and knocked into the loser bracket fairly early on? So did you kind of look at it on maybe the Sunday, knowing that all these teams were in the loser bracket, and thought, hang on a minute, we've got a really good chance of just kind of having it easy? Because a lot of people going into the tournament actually predicted Vitality to be the first team, the team to win it. So did you kind of know the fact that they're in the loser bracket, Millennium, Infused, EQ was all in the loser bracket, you kind of think we've got a really good chance here?
I mean, yeah, definitely about Vitality. I was pleased about them being in the loser bracket because I would consider them definitely our toughest opponents. But apart from that, I would consider a lot of the under-18 teams more of a challenge than the other teams you named.
Right.
To be honest, a lot of these teams like Xerxes, Aware, Rift, etc. All these are the ones that causes the most trouble online, and obviously online results are a bit weird sometimes. But at the same time, these are the players that I was most concerned about. So, bar the Vitality result, everything else was not to be expected. Obviously, a lot of results were sort of unexpected, but it definitely helped our confidence going into the bracket, knowing that we have an easier chance of winning the event essentially.
What was your the biggest surprise, should we say, good or bad? Because obviously there was a lot of good young talented teams that obviously came up. We had Rift finishing third, and it can be good or bad because obviously we did see some really awful places from like Millennium top 24, Infuse top 16. So for you, what was the biggest surprise, good or bad?
I would say the biggest surprise good would be Rift, just sort of sliding in at third. I didn't expect them to come like top 8. Didn't really expect.
So they got to the winners' final against yourselves, didn't they? They
exactly.
Took down a couple of good teams.
Yeah, they beat Xerxes in the winners' semis. They took them down in a really close series. To play Rift in the winners' bracket final, I didn't really expect that.
You were like, this is weird.
They're a sort of team you'd expect to play in the maybe like winners' bracket quarterfinals or something like that, way earlier on in the tournament. So to play them at that stage of the tournament was a bit strange. Our bracket was really strange actually throughout the entire thing. We had a lot of matches where we were expecting to play someone that maybe we'd heard of, or we'd heard of everyone that was decent that we played, but at some stages we're like, wow, we're playing this team over another team. It was kind of weird. We expected to play Millennium in our side of the bracket, and they obviously ended up getting knocked out at top 24, which was a bit strange. So
right, okay, and then obviously, yeah, I want to really talk about that a little bit more because you obviously had the French team coming over. What was that kind of like in the back of your head, knowing the fact that you was kind of former Millennium, to kind of know that they've kind of fell short and you've kind of stumped them in the sense that you've now outplaced them? Was that kind of quite satisfying knowing that you, so to speak, kind of beat your last organisation?
To be honest, I'm really good friends with everyone at Millennium, and I wish them all the best. So I'm kind of actually gutted for them that they didn't do better, if anything. I would have loved to play them. I was gutted for them they didn't get further ego as well, because I think they are a team that at times they possess the ability to go off, but at the same time they have this sort of inconsistent ability about them that they can lose to anyone at any given time, but they can also beat the best teams. It's weird. You're not really sure what team you're going to get from them.
It's a lot of inconsistency. Do you think that it was a bit bizarre? Because I found it a bit bizarre because obviously we talked about the top, 3 out of the top 4 seeds obviously crashing out earlier than we expected. Do you think one kind of reason came down to it, or do you think it was just a lot of maybe up-and-coming talent that maybe they took a little bit lighter than they should have? Because obviously I think it was Vitality turned up to one of their matches late and ended up playing the first map 2v4 and so on. So do you think there was any real reason why we saw so much inconsistency from some of the top-tier teams?
I certainly think that in terms of like just psychologically, these like underrated players and teams do definitely go way harder than a lot of the teams are.
They probably get a lot of confidence just from taking like one map.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of these players like in Vitality are played at international competitions and played all around the world to Call of Duty championships and stuff like that. And then when they're coming home and they're playing against someone that maybe they see as being way worse than them, they're not just like psychologically they're not going to just go as hard. So obviously that gives these teams a major advantage. But I mean, at the same time, you do need to, as a professional player, you need to be given 100% at all given times. Yeah. And I'm not saying Vitality didn't do that, but I think that there definitely is like a psychological thing with playing these sort of underrated teams.
Okay, interesting. Because I mean, it's just bizarre because going into it, everyone predicted pretty standard stuff. The top tier teams and organizations that we've known and loved for a good few years now to be up there, and it wasn't the case. I mean, if you predicted Epsilon to win it, Xerxes come second, and Rift come third, I take my hat off to you because I don't think anyone really saw it coming. I think we obviously had Beanbag on a couple of weeks ago, and I think Rift is a really good up and coming team. But sadly, they're obviously not 18 yet, so we won't see them in the Pro League yet. But are we going to a break, or are we going to continue?
We'll go for a quick break now because I don't want to ramble on too much. And then when we get back, we're going to kind of talk about what happened with Epsilon if we can talk about that, I mean, we
We'll
could
talk about
kind
as
of,
much as we can.
I mean, I don't want to have you break out into tears if I touch a sore subject and so on and so forth. So we'll be a little bit tentative about that, but obviously, I'm sure everyone wants to know the questions, and we'll try and answer them. So, of course, guys, don't go anywhere. Make sure you use the code STiKS for 5% off your G Fuel. No, your 5% off your scuff, and then 10% off your G Fuel. Got there in the end. Don't use MarkyB's code, use our code, and we'll see you after this short 90-second break. Bye. Okay, that was really weird. Sorry about the little bit of delay. We're here, back again. We're still here at One in Piece. I'm going to get the codes right now. I've got them written down in front of me. Use STiKS for 10% off your G Fuel and 5% off your scuff. I've got it there, finally. I was just about to say round of applause. There it goes.
The website this week.
I love it. So patronising. One day I'm going to get it. Goalie's clapping.
Goalie's just clapping in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear it.
But yeah, let's kind of touch on Epsilon MarkyB no longer being Epsilon MarkyB. Again, I'm going to try and not make you burst into tears or just sit there, traumatized.
An emotional journey.
So, Marky, simplest question: what happened?
Let's just go get a cup of tea. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Right, okay. So it's a weird question. Well, it's not a weird question. It's a perfectly
it's a
fine
very,
question.
it's
But
a very basic.
it's a weird question for me to answer because, from what I like, from this is what my point of view. So, we came back from win those two events. We had a couple of close games. I was probably playing. I mean, I wasn't playing bad. I wouldn't really say I was playing bad or anything, but I was probably playing some of my worst Call of Duty. I online. I just think it's got to the stage that it's my fault basically. It's like I'm gonna blame myself for it. I've not been going as hard online, not trying as hard. I used to be
because
down
it's not as important.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I just wasn't going as hard, and that's a failure on my part. And I wasn't playing as good at certain times. Playing a bit inconsistent. Still playing good when it came down to it in the league matches and stuff. If you want to watch them back, I've sometimes I was fucking going off, but I think when it came down to like the G50 tournaments and scrims and stuff, in fact we didn't really scrim that much, but when it came down to the G50 tournaments in particular, I wasn't really going 110%.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way I felt anyway. I just don't think that I was truly in it. Like, people would be asking me like, people would be calling it strats and games, and I'd be like, wait, what are we doing? We're doing this round? God, I just wasn't listening to my teammates and stuff like that.
So everyone's rushed in.
I was like in another place essentially, and they felt like they need to make a change. They want to get Mad Cat in. Fair enough for them. They're looking out for their best interests. So I don't really have any. There's obviously, sorry, I've got a bit of a cough as well. There's obviously other stuff that happened beforehand that I can't really say on stream, but
yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes that that was a bit sketchy, but at the same time,
right.
This is the decision that they made, and yeah, I am no longer a part of Epsilon.
Do you not think it's a little bit unusual, the fact that, at least in my personal point of view, the two things you've got to kind of judge it on is your online performance and your offline performance. So you won the last two LANs that you attended,
just the fact that
and then you were second in the G50 League. So it's not as if you was like, say for example, 8th in the league and choked every single LAN. You was doing really good. So do you not think that's a little bit unusual? Obviously you said there might be something behind closed doors, but do you not kind of annoyed the fact that you was doing well as a team, the fact that they've now made a change? Because usually there's a saying, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So do you not kind of feel a little bit annoyed or a little bit salty about that fact that you kind of got changed?
I mean, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, they have aspirations of getting results at international events.
Yeah.
If they felt that we weren't good enough in Europe, that we couldn't do as well as we could in Europe. Obviously, we'd won every event. We'd never lost a series on LAN together, like in an actual tournament. Obviously, only lost one series to Vitality, but in the Pro League opener thing. But apart from that, I think that obviously they were thinking like Mad Cat is the best player in Europe individually, and he is. So they're thinking, let's get him in, like solve our issues, which we did definitely suck at hard point. Like that was one of our weaknesses. I don't know what it is. We're a bit inconsistent on it. So a lot of these underrated teams beat us at hardpoint at Amateur Pro and even at Ego. So I think that was the decision to make the change.
So obviously, you was mentioned it might be the fact that they're looking into more international 2C. Marky just like looks like he's dying.
He's a little
Yeah,
sick.
it looks like there's a little bit of a problem there. Hopefully he's all right. But obviously, I don't know if he's listening, but obviously, do you feel as if he's like you might?
Sorry. As soon as you asked me a question, I was unmuting my mic. I would just try to cough out my anything that's in my throat.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, the whole situation with the sense that they kind of dropped you, and you mentioned that it has something to do with the fact that you're not really performing. Well, they thought you wasn't going to perform on a global scale. Do you think that's kind of looking at the G3 Summer Masters, what's coming up, and do you maybe feel as if it's a little bit of a short notice for personally you, in the sense of like you've just been dropped with, say, for example, a week, 2 weeks notice of the G3 Masters, so it's kind of leaves you scrapping to maybe get a team or go as a pickup or so on and so forth.
I don't really think that I don't really think. Well, they might have thought this, but I would never have underperformed at an international tournament ever. I don't think I've ever underperformed at any tournament bar Ego, and that was we still won the event, but that was probably one of my worst events of all time.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, I would say that they mainly made the change for just to improve the team. Obviously, and improving the team, they consider me a weaker player, but at the same time, I've never underperformed at an international tournament, so I don't really know if that was a concern, but I think they just wanted the better player, and they considered me to be the one that they should replace. So.
Yeah. I mean, we have to put it in context. I think a lot of times at least some people are like, oh no, they dropped him. Oh, it's all about like oh, I bet he's feeling like miserable and stuff. But we've got to realize that it's a business. You're playing to win. You're not playing to be necessarily popular. So I mean, obviously, if they feel picking up Mad Cat and dropping yourself is the right move, then I guess you have to respect it as an organization. I mean, we all know that Mad Cat's an exceptional player. It's why he went out to TCM in America to play with them during the season 2 and season 2 finals. So I just, it's just a bizarre move considering you've gone all this far. You've won Ego, you've won Amateur Pro. We're literally 2 weeks outside of the 100K Summer Championships that obviously Gfinity are putting on. And obviously, it sucks for yourself, but business is business, I guess. Obviously, they feel like they're going to be better off with Mad Cat going into it. So moving forward, what is next for MarkyB? Are we going to see you move somewhere else? Or
Go on, spill the intel live.
Are you going to stay on the STiKS or?
I'm moving to Turkey to grow up there, Call of Duty scene.
All right.
That's my plan.
That's fair enough. You're going to be an ambassador for Turkey?
Yep, that's
okay.
the plan. No, but honestly, the plan for me right now is unconfirmed. I don't really know what's going to happen.
Knows.
There's a lot of different directions I could go.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask
I'm not going to be left in the dark.
If you were offered an opportunity out in America, would you take it?
Sorry, yeah. Depends what it would be for. It really depends, honestly. Moving
someone
to
in the Pro League?
A big commitment, obviously.
Yeah.
It needs to. There's so many variables you got to take into account. There's got to be a team house there. You got to think about money as well. There's got to be some sort of like earning potential. Tournament winnings, whatever. Just.
I mean, obviously, if you're in the Pro League, you're being paid every match you play, regardless if you win or lose.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly consider it. I'd love to live in America and just. I'm a big fan of traveling and going different places. So even living in America for a short.
Just go in every league.
Even though I'd be sitting there
the ACL League, Brazilian League, the MLG League, and then just be like the only player to win every league or something. Or
start a league, MarkyB on tour, and it's just like MarkyB first 3 episodes in America playing in the Pro League.
MarkyB World Tour coming soon.
Ibrahimovic, that's like Ibrahimovic. I don't even know how to say his name, but he's won like a title in like every league. So I'll be like him. That's my plan.
Right. Okay. There we go. Then you can be like, now who did you drop? Because you've like an Australian champion, a Brazilian champion. But yeah, one thing I just want to take a little bit backtrack. Because you were talking about how they obviously thought that Mad Cat was the better player when they dropped you. How do you kind of mentally recover from that? Because it happened before when you was dropped from TCM for Jerd. And that came as a massive shock to a lot of people because you was kind of TCM. You was known as TCM MarkyB. So obviously that was a bit of a drop. You found your home on Millennium at I-53 for that. It's happened again now. So, how do you mentally like kind of get yourself right in the head? Because I mean, like, if I was to be dropped and the grounds being like they deem someone being better, I imagine like it kind of knocks a lot of wins at your sail. It's demoralizing, exactly.
If for me, I think definitely it's more motivation for me, to be honest. Being dropped, it makes me want to prove people wrong and stuff like that. But to be honest, I wasn't like the TC. Me being dropped by TCM, me being dropped by Epsilon, it was two completely different things. Like I was in TCM for a very long time, and like that came as a real shock to me, and I was very gutted about that. But to be honest, being brutally honest, when I was dropped for Epsilon, I really didn't actually care that much.
Right.
To be completely honest with you, that I'm not that bothered at this point in time. I'm using it as motivation, obviously going forward, but I'm happy that I'm going to land somewhere that's going to be just as good. So, I'm fine. Put it that way.
So you're pretty confident that obviously you're aware of offers, or you're expecting offers to come what aren't as horrible as they might be, for example.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be in a similar position, if not a better position. So. And I'm glad to have gone through this to get a real kick up the arse and give myself some more motivation, because
I was going to say, because obviously you talked about how you maybe weren't going as hard as you could have online. So now obviously with this kind of reality check, if you will, it's obviously, if anything, just really good motivation. And obviously, if anything, you're just going to want to prove to everyone that you are still top of the game and so on and so forth. So I think if anything, we're going to see a new MarkyB, if anything, evolve, because obviously you're going to be more motivated, determined, whatever, especially if you get on an EU team and obviously go up against Epsilon. You're obviously going to want to beat them to, it's a bit like, you dropped me and now look where I am kind of thing. But what is it that, like, because obviously it seems like it's skill that is the reason why you've been dropped. That's what it seems like. I mean, was there from the get-go, was there any kind of like personality clashes or anything that maybe would suggest another reason why you maybe would have been dropped? Or is it a bit hard to kind of say?
I mean, I try and get on with everyone, but I think that sometimes the way I see it, I try and I'm trying to always keep people like just calm, and sometimes that annoys people. If anything, if it ends up going the opposite way, I'm trying to like stop others from arguing, but then I end up arguing with the person. Like I'll be like, "Shut up, stop arguing." I'll be like, shut up, stop arguing. There's no need to argue here. And then they'll be like, and then I'll start arguing with that person about arguing. It's just, that's what I mainly argue about. Yeah. People arguing. That's like my main argument. Yeah. Like, stop arguing.
At the end of the day, if you're arguing or disputing something, it's at the end of the day because you all have the end goal of wanting to improve and get better. I feel like arguing is seen as something very bad in Call of Duty, and the reality is that you're arguing because you want to get better. I know it looks bad, but ultimately you obviously want to get better and be the best and so on and so forth. So I think we actually just got a new sub, Mr. Sleepy. Thank you for subbing. If we did just recently get a sub button, I think a few days ago. So if you want to subscribe and kind of support the STiKS fam, do subscribe down below. You're more than welcome to, although we don't enforce it. And you get all the emotes. You can use me as an emote. I think you can use Rage as an emote. You can use Cup of Tea, C+, whatever you want to use. So
to be fair, we need a MarkyB emote. He's been on the show so many times. Just kind of like
MarkyB's like our in-house kind of guest, if you will.
You're the official guest.
Let's move forward a little bit. So Mad Cat replacing, how do you think this team's going to get on in terms of at the G50 Summer Championships? Where do you kind of see this team in terms of kind of tiers?
I'd say they're the best team, and they're definitely the top two teams in Europe. I think that in terms of where they're going to finish at the event, it honestly could go many directions. It just comes down to
kind of hard to predict.
Yeah, it's really hard to predict. If I had
I presume we'll find out about the pools nearest the time, and then obviously you can make better judgment of if they'll get out of it and so on and so forth. But in terms of EU, are they going to be the best? Because obviously it's kind of between Epsilon and Vitality. So do you see this team as better than Vitality, or how do you see it from your perspective as a pro player?
Who's to say there's not going to be another team that is the best?
No,
it's
just going to be 4 MarkyBs. That's all it's going to be.
No, it's going to be MarkyB, me, Tommy, and Goldie.
No,
the dream team.
I'll be on the bench.
We'll abuse Goldie's American host. We'll just abuse Goldie's American host. Just like get everyone teleporting around as you just like 50 bomb everyone?
Yeah.
Nah, I consider them right now probably the best team. It really, honestly, it depends. There's so many factors that come down to it. I think Vitality, if B Sport Josh goes off, Vitality are like a real threat, like for American teams. I think he's got all motivation recently as well. So if he performs, I think that if he goes off, if he delivers one of these like sort of EU regionals like of this year sort of performances for Vitality, they can do absolute damage. I think that's what they need from him. So hopefully he can do that.
Okay, you don't have to answer this question. I'm going to put it out there, but obviously.
No, you got to answer it.
I'm not going to force you.
What happens if I don't answer it?
But obviously, with Madcat joining Epsilon, do you think now Epsilon is better with Madcat, or was it better with you?
We don't know.
Or is it?
I have no idea.
Is it kind of hard to say until we obviously see them in action?
Yeah, I've not seen them in action yet. I really couldn't answer that question, mate, to be honest.
Okay,
like you predicted, I really can't answer that question. I have no idea. I'd like to say they're going to be worse. Let's hope they're going to be worse.
I think that would be quite satisfying for you. I definitely know that if it was me in your shoes and that happened, and then all of a sudden they finish like, you know, poorly at the next couple of events, I'd be like, ha! But do you feel as if, you know, do you feel as if obviously Madcat's performance with Vitality when he was a pickup, do you feel as if obviously, I'm too pro this is, do you feel as if, you know, that kind of turned the heads of your Epsilon teammates and kind of said, oh, Madcat's been playing well. Obviously, Madcat's a well-known player and everyone in Europe kind of knows and considers him to be one of the best players in Europe. So do you feel as if, you know, his performance maybe gave him some more bargaining power in terms of replacing you?
I wouldn't really say it was that event because he didn't really go off that much in that event, to be honest. He's just renowned for being an amazing player. He didn't play bad. He played pretty like a standard Mad, like if anything worse than normal Madcat performance. If you look at how he played at X Games, for example, that is what they picked him up for, a player that can just constantly just go off and drop numbers and drop loads of kills and respawns. I think that's what they really want.
Right, okay, I've got one more question. We're going to go for a break because I have a feeling you're probably not going to answer this, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
We're trying to get the juice.
Exactly, I need like the intel. I need like you to say, oh, I'm going to be joining such and such organisation. Then I can be like, oh my god, intel. So the question is, will you be looking to join a team that's looking for one, or do you feel as if you're going to do kind of like a Millennium situation where you join the organisation and kind of like build a team? Like obviously you built the team with Carnage when you was with Millennium, when you got dropped from TCM. So do you feel as if, you know, you would rather join an organisation who hasn't got a team at the minute, maybe an organisation who's, you know, trying to get into COD, and then you can kind of
basically have you been approached by any organisation?
Have you been approached to either
I'm just
join a team as?
I'm not going to tell you an intel, but I'm probably looking to like create a team.
Right. Okay. And then obviously I'm going to be your first pick as a team. I love how you're not answering.
That's quite embarrassing.
You can be our first pick on the bench.
Wow. And on that awkward note, I think we kind of need to.
You can get the scuffs out of the casing, Alex, if you want.
I'm just gonna like, you know, cry in this corner behind me. So yeah, we're just gonna go for a quick break, guys. Make sure you use the code STiKS. We're gonna get it right for 10% off your G Fuel and 5% off your Scuff. So yeah, nice little healthy little discounts there. So make sure you use them. And as always, we'll see you on the other side of this 90-second break. Bye.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the STiKS EU. This is not the NA show, and Rage always seems to want to impersonate me when I bring the show back. But we're going to move on to talk a little bit about the Pro League. So I'm just going to put it out there now. If you've got any questions you want to ask MarkyB, leave them down below, and I'll pick out a few if they're adequate enough, should we say. But let's move on to talk about the Pro League. Obviously, last day of matches are today, last section of them, if you will. We've had about 7 or 8 weeks of them. And I just want to start off by talking about last week and what happened. Obviously, MarkyB, you last week actually went up against Millennium, ended up beating them 5-1. Vitality won 6-0, and Infuse won 5-1, and then Hypergames and VWS drew 3-3. So it means going into the final week of matches, or the final day of matches, we've got both Vitality and Epsilon, competing for the #1 spot, and then there's quite kind of a few teams that could get relegated. So start things off, who do we think is going to win out of Vitality and Epsilon, because going into the last day, I think Vitality are only ahead on map difference, and they've only got, I think, 2 maps ahead. So basically, Vitality would have to lose or draw for Epsilon to win. And going into the last week of matches, just for your guys' information, Vitality are taking on Infuse, Hyper Games are taking on Gamers 2, Millennium are taking on VWS, and Epsilon are taking up against Overgaming. So, MarkyB, firstly, are you playing for Epsilon today, or is Madcat?
I'm playing today.
You're playing.
So yeah, I don't think.
So
who is actually your subs? Is it Gunchi and
Rush?
Rush? Yeah. So did they contact them, or did you kind of say, "Look, guys,
No,
I want to go out on a win. I want to obviously leave on a good note.
You want to win the league.
My last hurrah. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully end with a 6-0.
Hopefully win and then be like, guys, you shouldn't have dropped me, and then just walk out.
Nah, if we're playing against a good team and we won, and then I'll be like,
Well, this is
I mean,
just like the Wolf is Wall Street.
no
team,
disrespect
like,
over again, but they've not really done that well against anyone.
yeah,
That's
they've drawn
decent,
one
so-
and lost the rest, from my understanding.
I'm not really expecting much from them at all.
Fair
So
enough.
winning against them is not really like a massive victory for myself. So if 6-0 is what I'd predict us to win.
Alex?
ooh. I don't know, because
Just to let you know, Overgaming have only won 9 maps throughout the whole league.
well, obviously statistics would say that Overgaming, who are last in the league, I believe. I actually haven't got it in front of me, so I'm kind of going off the top of my head. So they're last in the league. Epsilon are second. So obviously you would assume they was going to win. I kind of feel as if whether they win the league, I feel as if it's kind of in Infuse hands, because they're going to be playing Vitality.
Yeah.
So Infuse can either get you a healthy little paycheck, Marky, or they can like maybe not give you a healthy.
Let's go, Alex! Woo!
So I'm sure you're going to be like, no, giving team talk.
There is a pretty considerable
There's a big prize
first and
if
second.
Infuse beat, like, the difference between Infuse beating them is like $1,000 for us, like, each. So
are you like going to be like
$7,000 to down?
I would be sitting there like, let's go, Alex! Let's go!
sit in the court being the coach?
You're going to be like glued to the screen, just watching them, like supporting them.
Yeah, no, we probably will be, but I mean, like, the way it works out, like, before we dropped like 3 maps, 6-5, and if we hadn't dropped those maps, then it literally would have been a situation where we might have just needed to beat Overgaming 6-0, and if Infuse like took 1 map off Vitality, we could have won the league. But because we've dropped these maps, it's now the situation where
It's out of your hands.
yeah, it's out of our hands now. We just regardless, we just need to win our series. So 4-2, 5-1.
Okay, let's move on to obviously talk about the crucial match then. We're all obviously talking about Vitality versus Team Infused. If you don't know how it's working at the moment, I've just said it. Vitality are first, but only by basically map difference, and they have two maps in favour of them against Epsilon, who don't. So obviously coming into, as I talked about, for you guys to win, you obviously have to 6-0 over, and then you really need a draw at least from Infused to actually end up winning the league. So predictions wise, Marky, what are you expecting?
What are you expecting?
I'm gonna try and jinx myself.
Yeah, what are you
Try and jinx myself and say Vitality are gonna win 6-0.
Right, okay, but obviously you're going to be hoping for Infused to take the win. I think even if they draw, if Infused and Vitality draw 3-3, I think you win by like 1 round difference or whatever. So it's kind of
we win by a point because we're matching points. So yeah.
So obviously
we win by 2 points actually.
That's one thing what I kind of enjoy about this league from day one is like we always knew like I was kind of hoping that it's going to come down to last week, so it's going to be like edges on the seat, and it's kind of the same thing in the championship. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but it's going to hopefully be very interesting. I hope it does come all the way down to the wire, just from like a neutral point of view. I kind of really want to see it go to that's where I not say, for example, Vitality 6-0 someone, and then like for example Epsilon used over games. I really want it to be close. So yeah, I'm hoping for a draw on that game.
What I'd love if I was like Sergio Aguero and we went like it was
Last
like
second. Oh, that'd be.
It was like we were like 3-2 up in the series and we need to win. We've just heard over the news that Vitality have drawn, so we need to win this map. It's 5-5. Marky comes in last alive, 1v3 or 1v4, 5-5, and I just literally run around my room with my shirt off, just like it's going crazy. That's what I hope for.
1v4s them, wins it for Epsilon, just leaves the call and tweets out what happened, and then just like that's it. Then you can like leave on like like hashtag bet with Marky. There we go, get it trending. Be sorted.
Well, I mean, I hope we can go off with first place. That'd be ideal. Just getting 3. I wouldn't really say events, but just out of teaming with each other, winning all 3 competitions that we've taken a part of would be nice.
Yeah. Okay, so for the sake of it, you're going probably 6-0 Vitality. Alex, I don't know if you gave your prediction.
For Vitality?
Vitality infused.
I'm going 3-3 because I want to go all the way down to the last round.
Right, and I will go, just to be controversial, I'll go 4-2. Because I don't know how it works, but obviously...
To who, yeah?
To Vitality, sorry. Because obviously...
He's not a MarkyB supporter.
Technically... Oh, I'm sorry.
See you later, guys.
Yep.
Oh, great. Everyone's just left me. Oh, he's back. Okay, cool. No, what I was going to say is, but obviously, the map difference is by 2. So if it is 4-2 and you win 6-0 against Over, you will be drawing with maps. And then, am I right in thinking it would go head-to-heads between you and Vitality? But I'm not sure exactly how it would work.
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
To be honest.
Who knows? We don't know. So maybe if that does
actually
happen, you may somehow win. Okay, well, so Alex is going 3-3. I'm going to go 4-2, and you've gone 6-0 for Vitality. So that should be interesting because I think that's definitely the match, obviously, we're all anticipating because we all predict really Epsilon are going to be Over. No offense to them. They're in the league. They're a good team. But the Infused versus Vitality one will be a cracker. So definitely watch that one out on the Gfinity MLG channel. Moving on, Hypergames versus Gamers 2. 4th versus 5th. This is basically a toss-up because I'm not sure if Gamers 2 can still qualify.
But currently, Hypergames are in 4th. What's obviously the qualifying spot. So I think it's top 4 qualifies for the league. And so that's why it would have been interesting if Gamers 2 had some more points.
Yeah,
but currently, Hypergames are on 11 points, while Gamers 2 are on 5 points. So even if Gamers 2 win, they won't have enough points to obviously...
But obviously, Hypergames will obviously be competing to take the 3rd spot and get a higher seeding for the Gfinity Summer Championship, I presume. So predictions. Rage, let's go with you first.
For Hypergames, I wrote down 4-2 in favour to Hypergames because I feel as if, Hypergames are one of those teams for some reason, they get so underrated. I think it's just because, especially in France, they're kind of shadowed by Millennium because they've obviously got the likes of Kataga and Carnage and all the big names. So the fact that Hypergames are kind of the new blood of France, what kind of just... They're the new faces, so to speak, obviously the people who haven't been around for ages and ages, and I feel as if they are extremely underrated. Again, though, I'm going to have to factor in at least 1 or 2 rounds to Gamers 2 because you always got that host issue, especially considering that Gamers 2 are in Spain. So I'm sure, obviously, host, as much as we always say, it's going to be a factor. So I'm going to say 2 rounds in favour to Gamers 2 and then Hypergames taking the rest, the 4.
And MarkyB?
I'm going to predict 4-2 to Hypergames. I think that
great minds think alike.
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet. I'm sure
just
that
be safe.
Yeah.
Well, the league shows it. I mean, Hypergames are on 11 points, whereas Games 2 are only on 5. So it does show that they're a better caliber team. So I mean, I don't think you're wrong. So 4-2, you reckon, in favor of Hypergames? 4-2
is like. I think that it could even be like a 6. I'm pretty sure, regardless of the result in the series, I think Hypergames are going to win the series. 4-2, I'm going to say that Gamers 2 are going to grab like an S&D or maybe even like a respawn on their own host. Maybe like a hard point, depending on the maps and stuff. I'm not telling you what the maps are for this evening. So if, for example, Gamers 2 get a map like Detroit Hardpoint on host, then you could maybe see them pulling that one out of the bag. I think the more AR heavy maps favour Hypergames, so it really does come down to the rotations, who's hosting, stuff like that. And these are things I'm not really sure of, but I think Hypergames are going to win the series regardless, 4-2. So.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you because you'll probably walk out the room again. But I'm going to go one better, say they'll win it 5-1. I mean, looking at it, obviously Hypergames are 4th at the moment, Infused are 3rd, but obviously Infused have got to play that big match against Vitality. If they draw or lose and Hypergames win, they will lose their 3rd spot and go down to 4th. But ultimately, the top 4 have already qualified. What is the main thing? It just means the seedings for the Gfinity Summer Championship will be a bit mixed. What's up, sorry?
You get prize money as well.
Prize money as well.
Yeah, true.
It's like an extra £200 each, I think. Technically, I'm going off on another tangent.
Go for it.
Infused can still win the league.
Oh yeah.
Because if they
win
6-0 Vitality, and we lose, then they would overtake us.
That would be again one of those last day of the season remarkable last minute. That would be
Yeah,
this is what I kind of like about the league. And I said this from
yourselves
day
and
one,
Vitality would have to lose 6-0, I'm pretty sure, for that to happen.
Yeah.
Of map
They're
difference.
still technically in it. They're not mathematically out of the equation.
We're talking like infused out in it. It's just
There's a
like,
chance.
well, if that happens, I don't
My
know.
hat.
Go on. Okay, can
I
we
like
have
this
that? Can you look into the camera and say that just so when
Okay,
it does happen?
If we lose
Infused-
6-0
if-
and Infused win 6-0, I'll eat this hat.
If infused win,
Goalie,
I
make sure you
will-
timestamp that. Goalie, make sure you timestamp that. And make
It's
sure
not
you
happening,
get
it's
the
just
video
like-
ready.
if infused win, I will run down the street and I'll record it and put it on YouTube, even though it'll probably get flagged
Well, if
up.
Infused win, you do that.
Yeah, infused. If they win the league.
Oh, right, okay. I
we
thought you meant if they win. No.
If they win the
No,
league,
you said if they win.
You
So
said if
that's
they win,
like
you didn't
14.
specify.
Yeah.
okay, that's what I meant. Sorry, I apologize for not elaborating on that. Okay, anyway, moving on from running down the street naked. Millennium versus VWS, 6th spot versus the 7th spot. This is actually a pretty big matchup because obviously 7th and 8th get relegated. We obviously already know Overgaming will be relegated regardless of what happens today. But VWS Millennium on 5 points, VWS on 4 points. So effectively, the loser will get relegated, or if it's a draw, I'm not too certain. It depends on the map count. Actually, no, if it's a draw, then VWS will because of their map count. So basically, if it's a win or lose situation, the losing team will get relegated. I'm going to start with my predictions first because I'm a bit surprised. Coming into it, I honestly expected more from VWS because if I'm not mistaken, they qualified through the online qualification. And they looked really good. They took out a good few teams, and I expected more of them. And then obviously you've got Millennium, who obviously Mello left them, and they're playing with Carbon in separate leagues and so on and so forth. So I think it's a hard matchup to predict because, again, it comes down to who's hosting what and how the teams are performing on the day. But I honestly could see a 3-3 draw.
Right.
I honestly could see a 3-3 draw. MarkyB, what do you think?
I think VWS are probably going to win 5-1. 5-1 or 6-0.
Okay.
Millennium are literally a broken...
They're broken.
They're more
after-
broken than... I don't know, I'm trying to think of something to say.
I was waiting to see
They're
what
pretty broken. They're more broken than my phone case. Look at my phone. It's broken, right? They're more broken than this, right?
Imagine if you hold up your phone, then you got like a tweet or a DM from like your new org. Saying, like, imagine how bad that
The
would
new
be.
org just going, oh,
Just like
we're
Optic
ready.
Gaming just comes up like a tweet or something. from you.
DM from like Nade
Yeah.
Shot, like, let's
Oh,
go, buddy.
no. That would be horrible, but thankfully for you that
yeah.
didn't happen. Unfortunately for us, it didn't happen.
Oh,
I
yeah,
actually
5-1.
5-1. Right, I have Millennium down for 4-2. But if they really are a broken mess, Marky obviously knows more about them than me because, well, you know, he plays the game for a living and I just sit here and talk. I'm probably going to have to change up my prediction. I'm going to go 3-3. I'm going to go for a draw, make it a little bit interesting in the league once again. I'm all about these interesting scenarios where, you know, teams win by a round difference or by a single point. So that's what I'm going. I'm going for a 3-3 situation.
Okay, interesting. So MarkyB's just blown out, just going VWS winning straight up, and we've gone with a bit of controversial and kind of holding back and not getting hate with VWS and Millennium drawing. So, it's going to be an interesting day. Obviously, league matches kick off at 8 p.m. I'm really intrigued to find out what actually does happen because, as you said, if you obviously win the league, the difference is £4,000, 3,000 for second, 7,000 for first. So there's a pretty big difference. And then obviously, although we know the teams that have already qualified, seeding doesn't matter because obviously if you have a higher seed, ultimately, hopefully you should have a little bit of an easier pool at the G20 Summer Championships that MarkyB may be at. We don't know.
Well, that was actually a question.
Just don't
That
know.
was actually a question from Seb, who was in the chat. He was actually asking if you're at the G3. I can't remember the tweet. I probably should have saved it or whatever. But he said basically, if you're at the Summer Masters, are you playing or are you doing anything else at the G3 Masters other than just spectating? So can you answer that question now or can you not?
I'm not sure if I'm going to be at G4A.
Right. Okay.
Maybe. Who knows? We'll have to see. I don't know.
Would you go as the spectator even if you weren't competing?
I'm not sure I'd go to spectate. I'd love to do some sort of like analyst work or whatever,
obviously
just
I think
helping out. I would love to maybe help the
Gunch and
Settle.
Shane, obviously, they're doing that, aren't they? So, who
Well,
knows?
what you should do, you should go and then you should just sit outside of like the booth of Epsilon, like sit on the front row and just stand there, just waving at them when they lose, and then you could be
You
like,
should just do your own,
guys,
just do your own analysis.
Imagine how evil that would be. Just like, way.
Just front row and just like put up a sign or something.
Like, hashtag bet with MarkyB.
Just like my face, just one of my big picture of my face, like every time they lose.
Oh, that'd be amazing. We're actually going to talk about the championship a little bit because just I would say it's last week we've kind of talked.
I'll be back in 2 seconds. Sorry.
Back in 2 seconds. That's fine. Marky's obviously
leaving us.
A man of many mysteries. He's probably on the phone to his new Orgona now. At least I'm hoping anyway. So he's not a free agent. But the way the championship is at the minute, it's pretty much anyone's to take. Currently, Spirit Gaming is sitting at the top with 16 points. Then we've got IGI, who's on 14 points, sitting in second, with XL on 13, who are third. And IGI and XL are actually playing each other. So basically, it's third versus second.
Interesting as hell.
And the winner finishes second in the league, obviously.
And ultimately qualifies, and I think that's the bigger picture. It's not just second place and whatever the prize pool is for it. It's qualification. It's literally make or break of being in the Premiership and not, because obviously you have to look at the bigger picture of, obviously, you get into the Premiership, that could mean better sponsors, bigger sponsors, whatever, more funding, whatever. So it's a pretty big step up, I think. I mean, Marky, just to bring up to date, we're talking about the championship now. IGI and XL are both basically playing for qualification into the Premiership.
Really?
With Spirit Gaming first. So who do we see taking it? Because I haven't, in all fairness, watched too much of the championship. It's really hard with not many people streaming and so on and so forth. I know the boys on XL do a great job streaming on MWG, but I haven't had the chance to watch it. So has anyone really seen these teams in action and seen what they're like, etc.?
Is XL Cambo's team?
XL is Cambo's team, I believe.
I believe it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
A quick check.
I'm a big fan of XL, so.
Yeah, everyone knows.
We know who you're going with already.
Yep, I'm straight away.
6-0.
Nah, I think it'll be a close match. It's really hard to predict these sort of matches because there's a lot on the line. Obviously, being in the Pro League, having the opportunity to go to these big events if you come in the top 4, if you win some online games. So, I mean, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot on the line here. So everyone needs to go 110%. So, I'd probably favour XL, but I don't know. It's a weird one.
Right. As always with me, I like it being close. I like it being intense. So I'm going to say it's a 3-3.
You love your good old 3-3s, don't you?
I do, mate. I love my best of 5 round 11 search and destroys. I do. I've got to say though, it's like
best of 6. Sorry, Super 6.
Sorry,
Super 6.
Sorry. But obviously, I've got to say IGI kind of have an advantage of having 2 twins play for them. So they've got, I think it's T Ant and T so and so. I've really just messed it up.
Why is that an advantage?
Well, it's an advantage because you've got like a psychological connection. They're twins.
I'm a twin, and I can confirm that is absolute rubbish.
No, like I've seen a film, and I'm pretty certain in film it's a thing. So like, if it's in a film, it must be real. So obviously, I'm just saying like, they don't even need to communicate, and they already
if it's in a film, it must be real. Oh wow!
So they've got T1 chemistry. So I'm saying IGI are probably going to be the better of them. Goalie's probably laughing at me for sounding absolutely stupid. But Tommy, obviously, you're the twin expert. Do you think IGI are going to take this?
I'm not a twin expert. I'm just a twin, and I can tell you that there's no telepathy or anything between twins. I can't like send a message to my twin saying, "Oh, get me this at the shop" or whatever. But
that means you're not.
Yeah,
twin.
Tommy, you're just not a special twin. I'm sorry.
I'm just not a special twin, apparently, according to Goalie. Well, there we have it, guys. I'm not special, so that's ruined my dreams. But no, this matchup, I'm going to be honest, it's hard to predict not having too much information about it. I don't want to just kind of ramble on about anything. So I'm going to hopefully watch it if it is streamed or whatever, because it'll be a very interesting one. But looking at it, it's really all to play for, because obviously XL are only 1 point behind. So if they get a draw, they'll probably end up still losing because of their map difference. But I don't know. Just for the sake of things, seeing XL compete at Am2 Pro, I'm probably going to go with them. But as I say, it's make or break. Whichever team loses obviously doesn't qualify. And then obviously Spirit Gaming are pretty much already qualified. But technically, if they lose, even though they're playing against Fabi, who are 1 draw and 5 losses, for anyone that didn't know, if they lose that and IGI win, then IGI would go top. So, but either way, Spirit qualify. So it'll be interesting. But just before we end the show, announcement. I don't think we've got a graphic. I don't know. Goalie might whip together something quickly. But the 1v1 is going to be there tomorrow. I know it hasn't been there for a couple of weeks since we had Gondi on it. But the 1v1 guest is going to be General from E6. For anyone, or basically everyone that didn't know, as you can see the sound effects from Marky coming in. So he's going to be on the show tomorrow. I think it's around 11 p.m. over here in Britain, and then it's about 6 p.m. Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken. Gold is going to quickly correct me.
Goalie
I think that's
hasn't
correct.
shouted at you.
It's been so long. Wait, what?
Goalie hasn't shouted at you.
I think it's right. I don't know. It's sometimes
right.
Okay. So the problem is that I'm not even sure because it's been so long since we did the Gandhi 1v1, so I can't correct you.
Yeah, the Gandhi 1v1 was 3 weeks ago, maybe longer. I don't know. But yeah, there's going to be 1v1 tomorrow. Kingdom, General, be there. 1v1 questions. Obviously, make sure you follow the STiKS MLG channel, because then you'll obviously be informed as soon as it goes live. You get an email, you get notifications. Follow it on your phone as well if you want to. But that's going to be happening tomorrow. Obviously, a pretty interesting guest with General being kind of the co-owner, I think, of E6 and the history that E6 have. So you definitely don't want to miss that one out. But I'm going to hand it over now to Alex to end the show.
Well, I'm going to hand it over to Marky.
Oh, here we go.
Because obviously, you know, Marky's a seasoned veteran of the STiKS now. He's been on it the most out of everyone, I think. So hopefully by now you would have thought he knows how it works. We kind of give you a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even if you want, however long you want. Hopefully not too long. Just kind of any shout outs, if you want to shout out your new org sponsors, just say
just link their Twitter.
Link something, then now's the time to do it. Off you go, Mark.
Right, guys, shout out to Main Shot for making this all possible. Thanks, mate. Love you, buddy.
Show the green razor.
Shout out to it's blue right now, so no, but honestly, just shout out to all you guys for inviting me on here. Shout out to Goalie, shout out to obviously Kingdom Soldier, shout out to Tommy. I can't really think of anyone else.
It's fine. We can end the show. It's fine. We don't need him. Carry on.
Who's that other guy that's sort of on the show sometimes?
It's quite tall.
Hitch.
Hitch. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. We're gonna miss it. We're gonna miss Hitch on the STiKS EU.
Yeah.
He's a good host.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, anyway, apart from that, there's not really anyone that has shouted that's of any importance whatsoever. So that's all I really have to say. Thanks a lot, guys, for bringing me on the show. But yeah, honestly, just shout out to everyone that supports myself, all the guys out there that tweet me every day, giving me nice messages. Thank you.
You are more than welcome. Yeah, as always, Marky, pleasure having you on. 4th time already. That's a new record. You've already broken the old one. But we wish you all the best in Turkey with your ambassador role as esports manager or whatever. And if you are on Optic, well done, I guess. But my name's been Tommy, guys. As always, thank you for watching. And you can catch me next week at some point.
We won't catch him next week.
With the STiKS EU.
Guys, again, I'm kind of a little bit heartbroken. I'm feeling a little bit teary. I feel as if, like, Marky's broke my heart, destroyed my soul.
Who's this guy that's talking that just killed right now?
Oh, he's not going to be
So, guys, I'm going to end the show now. I'm going to be I messed up.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Remember to use
guys,
code
make sure you check down
STiKS.
below. Look at the codes down below. Use the code STiKS for 10% off your G-Fuel and 5% off your scuff. 100% haven't got a script like to the side of my monitor what says that. But as always, I've been Alex. Tommy's been that way or that way, whichever way he is. Thanks a lot, Marky, for coming on the show once again. Been a great guest until the last 30 seconds. You was a little bit annoying there. Kind of broke my heart, made me sad. And as always, guys, we'll see you whenever. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.